Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Borough of Englewood Cliffs regular meeting of the Mayor and Council. Today is January 10th, 2018. It's 8 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Mayor Kranjak,
Present.
Councilperson Zaversa,
Here.
E. Park. Here. O.
Here.
McMorrow.
Here.
M. Park.
Here.
Wu.
Here.
Borough Attorney.
Present.
Borough Administrator. Here. Superintendent of DPW.
Here.
Municipal Clerk. Everyone's present, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Would everyone please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. There was a Fort Lee resident who was deployed with the United States Army in Afghanistan, and he died. And it's a terrible death. We're here to honor his memory and his family. So, just a moment of silence. His name is Army Sergeant First Class Mihail Golan. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please read into the record the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. There are minutes of meetings to be approved. There's the caucus and regular meeting on December 13th, 2017. You should have all reviewed those minutes. And there's a signed eye meeting from January 1st, 2018. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Councilperson Zaversa?
Yes.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorrow?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to have the Finance Committee Chairperson address the claims for the period from January 1st, 2018 through January 10th, 2018.
Thank you, Mayor. I've reviewed the bills, and I move that they be paid. The total amount is $2,042,108.51.
I need a second.
Second.
Councilperson Zaversa?
I have to recuse from check 44282, but yes to everything else.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorrow?
I'm sorry, Councilman, what check was that?
44282.
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate Shauna Joffrey for becoming the Board of Education President. She just was elected last week. We wish her great success, and I've reached out to her. We had a nice conversation, looking for more ways for the council and the municipal government to support the schools in town. So we look forward to working with Shauna. Next up on the agenda,
You need to now take a roll call on the check that Councilman Aversa.
oh, and one check?
Yeah, on the check.
Okay. Could we just do that?
Check number 44282, I need somebody to, I make a motion to pay that check, I need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilperson Zaversa?
I recuse.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorrow?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the 2018 municipal budget. The process is going to begin now. Our Finance Committee Chairperson is Councilwoman Carol McMorrow. A couple of fact points that I want to just mention to you that we have to struggle with. Recently, if you read the paper, you would see that 15% of our appropriated budget is for retirement benefits. We're the highest in Bergen County. So that's one of our challenges. The other challenge is police overtime. I mentioned it in my reorg speech. Our police overtime was $350,000 last year. It was budgeted to be, what was it, Carol? Catherine, 300? Yeah, so it was over the budgeted amount. We have, as a council, we're struggling to find ways to address that, because, as I mentioned during the reorg speech, there's a PBA contract, there's a police chief contract, and then there's also what's referred to as the police chief's Bill of Rights. So I'm looking for a taxpayer's Bill of Rights as well. So this all has to work together. And then coupled with all that, I mentioned that a lot of people weren't here on the reorg meeting. It was on January 1st. The federal government has changed its federal tax policy when it comes to states and local government taxes and the deductibility of those taxes. So the federal government is finally actually telling municipalities like ours and everyone else in the country to run as lean and efficiently as possible, because your residents aren't going to have the same deductibility anymore. So my administration saw this coming 2 years ago, and we started dealing with it then. I wish we made more progress, and I think this year we will make some more. And just an overall, my goal is to not raise taxes at all this year. In the last 2 years, I think we raised them overall $50, just combined for 2 years. So we're doing well there. I think we could do better. So,
No, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. You can wishful thinking.
We're going to work really hard to make it happen. And I thank you for taking on that responsibility. Okay, so we're at a point now on the agenda where the public gets to speak. Actually, before we do that, I want to thank the DPW men for doing such a great job with the snow, and I know we've had frozen pipes at Borough Hall, pipes going into the building and out of the building, so it was particularly a challenge and a messy week. So we'll leave it at that. But thank you. Please relay that to the men. I see Ralph there. Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Yeah. They had a very long day last Friday, or Thursday, Friday. Yeah. Yeah. So. Also, I was contacted by Unilever. The building that they're renovating is almost complete. It should be completed by the end of February, if not sooner. Follow up on a few things that came up at the last meeting. There was a request to make a no turn on red on John Street. The police department is doing a traffic survey, looking into that. We should have the results by the end of January, right? Yeah, so, the other matters that were addressed are also being dealt with for the last meeting.
Catherine, there was also Pershing Road.
Can you turn on the mic?
I'm sorry, I thought that was on. I want to make sure that you got that email as well. There were residents on Pershing Road that sent us an email, and I believe the chief was copied on that as well. So if they're going to do a traffic survey, Mayor, if they can just look into, make sure that that's taken care of and addressed.
Right, and from the last meeting, Mark, there was a request made that the walking paths at Whitty Field be salted. If you can just try to keep them free of ice. Okay, thank you. And then there's also a complaint, which is something I have no control over, which is poor internet service in the north part of town. The complaint was relayed to whoever, I guess Verizon is in charge of internet, or Comcast.
Comcast.
Yeah.
Time Warner.
Time Warner. Spectrum. What name is it this week? So anyway, we're trying to get better service up there, and I don't know what happened. No one's really been able to explain it, but the cell coverage up there also in the north part of town has dropped off significantly from where it had been. So we're hoping for better results there. The other issue that was left open last meeting was that of the animal shelter. We're still working on that. We're trying to find the best solution for all the issues that were raised, and I think we might be onto something. Speaking to Councilman Wu earlier, and we'll have something to present to you at the next meeting. So with that said, I'd like to have a motion to open the meeting up to the public for their comments.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, if there's anyone from the public who wishes to be heard, please raise your hand, wait for me to acknowledge you, come up, and you can sit down here at the table to my right. It's not a dialogue, it's a time where you get 5 minutes, hopefully no more than the 5 minutes, to just kind of tell us what's on your mind. And we'll listen, we'll take notes. If we can't answer your questions right now, we'll come back to you at the next meeting and answer it. Okay? So can I have the public interested in speaking, raise your hands. Yes, sir.
I want everybody to read this before I start.
Okay, go ahead.
I prefer to stand.
That's fine.
Would you mind using the microphone
Sure.
so it goes in? Thank you.
My name is David Sevon. I'm from 129 Hollywood Avenue in Englewood Cliffs. I received that letter yesterday in the mail. I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have come into this courtroom and talked about Mike Giaffi. But what I want to tell you people is you really don't know this guy as well as I do, because I've been over here since I'm 8 years old. And anybody can come in and talk about this man as much as they want. 23 years ago, while my father was having a very difficult night at the house, going into near death, you know who came to my house to rescue his life? Mr. Giaffi. None of you people were there to see that. I was. I was there to witness this man to save my father's life. A man that worked 20 hours a day buying and selling used cars to buy a house in Englewood Cliffs. And all I'm hearing about this guy is this letter that's coming in the mail to me last night. I want to talk to everybody so I can understand
There's seats here.
my life of this man saving my father's life. Because none of you guys were standing up there to witness that. I was. This is a man that came in full force to save a human being's life. And if that human being was alive today, everybody just better forget about it. Knocking this man's name down and doing whatever, and the whole 9 yards. Terrible, terrible, terrible time that we're going through, watching this guy every day being mocked down. Now, it's got to stop. It has just got to stop. The guy's up there in age already. I'm up there in age already. I mean, come on. That's number one. Number two, I want to know which person signed off for merely sanitation to be in this town.
That's competitive bid, right?
It's a competitive.
It was a competitive bid.
It was a competitive bid.
And by the way, anyone standing, there's some seats up front and over there. Feel free to come up.
And number three, I want to know what we're going to do about people that are coming down Sage Road doing 60 miles an hour on Johnson and then going down Woodland doing another 60 miles an hour to go down Palisades Avenue to save time on the light on Sylvan and Palisades, and running stop signs all over town like they don't even exist. That's another problem I got. Okay? That's just about what I want to tell you guys, you know.
Thank you for your comments. In terms of the speeders, that we've heard those complaints before.
It's getting worse.
Right, I run on those streets, so I know that as well. We've relayed those complaints to the police department. They've tried, I know they've tried, and we'll relay it again. Thank you for coming. Anybody else wishing to be heard? Mr. Marinuzzi, is your hand up? Yes, good. Yeah, good. You had your hand up? I thought your hand was up.
My hand?
No, the guy behind you. It's okay. You can come up. Okay. Yeah, sure. Nobody wants to talk? Okay. Yes, in the back. Yeah, we could,
Mike Kochnover, 11 Fifth Street, which I'm surprised to see on the agenda, and I'm just going to ask, can we talk about any of this? Is there any news on Fifth Street? Potential litigation? There's only 3 homeowners, so I'm surprised to see that. Is there any comment we can make about Fifth Street right now?
I think next month we'll have more, right?
we're going to give you a lot more information next month. We had to meet privately in closed session, which we did. Just for everybody's information, Fifth Street is a street that hasn't been paved, although new homes were built in countervention of our state law, and we're dealing with that, something that my administration inherited. And the homeowners there are rightfully complaining, as Mr. Kochnover is one of them, that something needs to be done, and unfortunately, the developer didn't do what he was supposed to do, but we're working on a solution for them. And although there are 3 houses there, there's also other property owners as well. There's a commercial and some others, so we want to get it paved. It's not safe the way it is right now. You can't get a fire truck properly down there, and other emergency vehicles. So the safety of our residents is paramount, despite what a developer did wrong. So, all right?
But potential litigation, has there been something filed?
No.
Okay.
No.
That was it?
No.
Okay.
There was something with the developer which we took care of and settled, but,
Thanks.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there anybody else from the public who wishes to be heard? Want to come up together? Go ahead, yes.
Deborah Sabari, 106 Hollywood Avenue. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if they can be answered. If not, I guess they can be answered at the next meeting. I was wondering what our insurance deductible is now. Is it still $75,000? Is it $100,000? Is it $150,000?
It's $150,000.
So it's $150,000. Which brings me again to my concern with all the lawsuits that we have going on, that I think, and this is not aimed directly at you, Carol, it would be aimed at Ellen or Ed or anybody on this council. I think when you sit up there and you represent the residents of this town, I think you're conflicted if you're suing for monetary damages. So I just want to get it out there again, that I'm not against your rights to sue, and I'm not saying who's right or wrong in your lawsuit, but what I am saying is you can't represent me, the resident, if I'm going to be paying the $150,000 deductible if you were to be awarded whatever amount, over, under, is going to come out of the resident's pocket. I have a problem with that.
I'll respond after you're done.
I saw that there's a COA committee being formed on the agenda under new business. I thought there already was a committee. About 6 months ago, I asked if I could be of any help, and I was told there was a committee and that there wasn't any help needed at the moment, but you would keep me in mind. So I just don't understand, if there's a committee, why we're, under new business, we're forming a committee. So is there a committee currently for COA, or is this something new?
There is no committee currently. All committees expired at the end of last year.
Okay, so was there a committee last year?
I believe there was a liaison.
Okay. Well, I was...
Typo.
Which is,
Okay.
what- tonight, what I want to do is appoint a liaison to deal with COA and our council.
Okay. There appears to be work going on in the Lions Club. Is there something going on there? Are we renting that out? Is the town paying for that?
I don't know anything about the work that's going on, but I assure you the town is not paying for it.
Okay. If the town is not, are we aware of what work is going on,
We're not
and
the
wouldn't we
Lions
have to
Club.
approve it?
We're not the Lions Club, they meet on another night.
Or wouldn't the town have to approve any work going on? So do they have a lease on the Lions Club? I thought that had expired.
It's month to month, right?
It's a month to month?
Right now, it's month to month. It expired, and it's month to month.
Well, I think it's something that council might want to look into. There is work going on there, and if they're on a month to month, that would raise some concern.
Well, there's still a tenant in possession.
I understand, but why would they be doing work in there with, we had
Take a
said
look, we'll
that
get
it...
back to you.
Okay. I see that there's a policy here regarding drug and alcohol abuse, and I'm forming also a committee for that. And what exactly would that committee be doing? Like, I guess my concern is that at meetings here before, children of residents in this town who had wound up in trouble were actually called out at a council meeting. And I want to be sure that if there's a committee formed, I think it's a great thing to educate the community on drug and alcohol abuse and do whatever. Unless I'm misreading this?
It's more driven by grant language, and I'll let our Borough Administrator, Catherine Stein, speak to that, please.
Annually, we participate in the Municipal Alliance grant funding, which the police department runs programs through for the schools and the kids in town.
So the committee is actually, it's run by the police department?
The police
Thank you.
department uses the funding to pay for paraphernalia, educational tools, and things to that regard.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great, thank
They run
you.
it hand in hand with DARE.
Okay, I just wanted to see who was on that committee because of confidentiality and like exactly what that was about, but
And
thank
that's why it's
you.
run through there, because it deals with our kids.
Okay,
These are, this
Thank
is a
you.
state committee, correct, with state funds,
Right.
that we have to have matching, or just,
We have a portion of matching. It can be
Right.
in kind.
right? So if
It
you're
can
from,
be utilized out of other fundings and donations we receive. It just is not used towards salaries.
and it covers programs like DARE, the
It's
the DARE
run
program?
in conjunction with DARE.
Okay.
We did the traffic ordinance to help fund DARE,
Okay.
simultaneously.
Okay.
oh, I think it's a big
Yeah.
problem everywhere, so I think that's great that there are funds and grants available and that we're utilizing that. I just didn't understand that from this. It almost appeared to me that a committee within the group here was being formed, and I just wanted to understand what that was
No,
about.
that's the mandatory verbiage from the state for the grant.
Thank you very
We
much.
want to make sure that our children are informed and kept safe.
Totally agree.
Because they're, right now, if you think about it, they're living in a state of mixed messaging. We have some leaders saying drugs, legalizing marijuana is bad. The former governor, that was his position. The new governor says it's okay, we're going to legalize it. So the kids are hearing this, and we need to work even harder to make sure that they understand the problems associated with that.
Yeah, I think there are lots of issues going on with drugs.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wishing to be heard? Yes.
Dave DiGregorio, 165 Charlotte Place. I'd like to comment, first of all, as probably your favorite enemy of democracy, that I listened intently at your speech on New Year's on the tape, and I was very surprised at how harsh you were to the last administration, and also to the police department, and also how harsh you were to people that chose to have a sign on their lawn in support of the police department. This was rather shocking to me when you talked about the chief in particular. I think the proper way would have been to sit at the negotiating table and slowly have your way. I believe that this is a failure in your leadership. Your leadership could have reached across the table and could have worked with the unions, and you could have probably gained more traction with everyone in town had you done that. But instead, I think you chose what you might have seen as being more expedient, which I think is basically a failure in judgment on your part. So I would encourage you to sit at the negotiating table. I will be putting a sign on my property in support of Chief Jaffe and the police department, because I feel that they're doing a fantastic job, and they deserve what they're getting, and they deserve their pay that they're getting. So I fault you on that note. I did vote for you, Mayor Kranjak, and I would like to publicly apologize to former Councilman Favaro. I was intending to vote for him at the last minute. I voted for you, and I do regret that I did so far. I still have a hope that you might come around and might find some humanity in the way you're dealing with people. As far as the I am also glad that you are not interrupting any more comments. I think that's a welcome relief that you're staying absolutely silent as I make my comments. And I would encourage Mark Park and William Wu to be their own people. I believe that if you're a maverick, if you vote what's in your heart, what you feel right, instead of rubber stamping the two people to your right, that would be good. I think that we're witnessing a sinking ship, and I would hope that you would be more independent as far as that goes. As far as the planning board, it's a shame because the atmosphere that was created, this adversarial atmosphere, really hurt the decisions that were being made by the planning board. Had the planning board president listened and welcomed the opinions of other people, we would not find ourselves in a situation that we're in now, with 600 units coming into, possibility of 600 units coming into town. So I think that when you have a spirit of cooperation, when you leave vengeance aside, which can seem luscious, and pleasurable, but I think it's counterproductive to good government. I have the highest respect for the organization in town and EC for good government. I think that is a wonderful function for residents to take up, as it really calls out it educates people in town as to what's going on. And I think that there is hope for everybody, and I would hope that the mayor will take on a more respectable, will respect the other side and reach out, and Ms. McMorrow too. I also agree that the McMorrow gravy train needs to come to a stop. Anyone who's profiting from the residents in town really cannot vote for things regarding the police department. So I totally agree, and I think that's only fair, and it's very, very reasonable. And I think that's about it. Do you have any comments? I'll stay here and listen to your comments.
No, if you're finished, you could go back to your chair.
I will go back to my chair.
Thank you.
But if you do respond to my comments, I would reserve the right to respond back to you.
That's not how this works.
That's what?
That's not how this works.
How does it work,
Your time
then?
is up, and you-
I know it's not. It's
Okay, is anybody else wishing to be heard? Oh, yeah. Can we clear the doorway? There's 2 seats up here. You're welcome to come up here. We just don't want to create a fire hazard.
I mentioned this earlier, can you just clarify what's going on with the housing and the parking and the letter that went out?
You need to raise your hand and be recognized, and then come up here. And you need to get on the record. We can't do it that way. It's Robert's Rules of Order.
I
Heidi Skolnick, Sanford Road. I just wanted, or Drive, I just wanted an update, and I might have missed this earlier, what is going on with the whole housing, parking thing that went around? Like, I'd like an update on where we're at.
Okay, so, the planning board denied an application to subdivide the property where Unilever is located right now. What happened was Unilever sold 28 acres to a company called Normandy. Normandy redeveloped a building to the south by the gas station for Unilever to occupy and leased a large part of the other building to Unilever, along with 300 parking spots. Normandy had an application in front of our planning board to build a large parking deck facing 9W, and also to subdivide that one parcel into two parcels. They were denied, and rightfully so, by our planning board, for reasons that many people in this room don't know, and there's no way you could know right now, because it's in litigation, but at the end, this will all make sense to you when we're able to speak more about it in detail. The subdivision was denied because that was one 28-acre tract of property, and that's the way it was supposed to stay. And what was done between two private parties, Unilever and Normandy, is not binding on the borough. The borough has the last say in zoning. This is not zoned residential as a property, it's zoned commercial. We have a 35-foot height limit. I spoke to Scenic Hudson today about that issue as well. So, what you'll probably find out down the road is that Normandy never intended to really have offices there. They wanted to have residential property there from the beginning. But how do you do that if you're going to have 300 parking spots given to Unilever, plus leasing a big part of that property to Unilever? So they, I think, were trying to game the system. We're in litigation with them right now to stop that, that property being included into our inventory of affordable housing, and also to make clear to the court that this is zoned commercial, not residential. There needs to be a commercial building there. Unfortunately, in the state of New Jersey, we have since 1983 or 82, the Mount Laurel decisions came out then, which basically said that every municipality has to have low-income and affordable housing as part of a group of properties within their city or town, in our case, the borough. Each borough was given a number of units, and that's been the subject of litigation, that just about every municipality, and stop me if I'm going too far here, but every municipality had... Right, so it's litigation, but I want you to leave here understanding more than you did when you came in. Every municipality in the state was subject to this litigation to have a number of units of low-income and affordable housing mandated. So it's social engineering in a lot of ways, and it was needed in Mount Laurel. I don't think it's needed in Englewood Cliffs, but that's not the law. The law says everyone has to have this, so we as a government have to follow the law, even if we don't like it. Developers love this idea, right? Because they come in and they want to build 10,000 units or 600 units in our case, in a place where you can't sustain that number of units for a number of reasons in our town, because we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the schools, we don't have the public transportation that people who have a need for low-income housing would need public transportation, right? We don't have that. We don't have trains. So we've had a meeting with Normandy, and the litigation continues. I think they gamed the system a bit because the judge who signed an order, his name is Padovano. Padovano's law firm, former law firm, was also in front of him. So what happened was Normandy hired Padovano as a law firm to conflict out the judge and go to another judge. And I don't think the new judge has a full appreciation of what had transpired in the litigation in front of Judge Padovano. So we're at a point now where we're trying to inform Judge Toscos of what Judge Padovano had in front of him. Okay? Now, put all that aside, I wanted to satisfy, and some members on council wanted to satisfy our requirement for low-income and moderate housing by doing senior citizen housing on Hudson Terrace, at the Lions Club building that was referenced earlier, because a lot of our seniors, from what I understand in speaking to them, want to downsize, but stay in town. And it's very difficult to do that in a town where you don't have appropriate housing that could accommodate that idea. So we're trying to do that, and we've got some plans drawn, and we're negotiating with DECOA, which is the Council on Affordable Housing, to have that satisfy our requirement. Okay, so...
Independent living?
Yes, independent, yes. So, that's where we're at. Thanks for asking. All right. Yeah. Okay, anybody else wishing to be heard? Yes.
I didn't raise my hand, but I...
No, I'm sorry, there's a person behind you, but...
But I do have a question, go ahead.
Okay, so after her, you can just come up.
Okay, I still have it.
Okay. Yeah.
Debbie Fair, 49 Irving Avenue. Mayor, I must respectfully disagree with what you are telling the people of town in your letter and in your statement now. It is inconceivable that Normandy would spend the amount of money and the amount of time that they spent attending 4 planning board hearings, and they did not just make an application to build a garage on 9W and to subdivide. They were going to renovate that entire building, the existing building. It was going to be a beautiful, state-of-the-art building. The garage was set back 135 feet and down a little bit because of the lay of the land there, and it would not be an eyesore. To claim, and I was in court, as you well know, on Friday, and I heard the attorney speaking. And to hang your hats on this 28-acre, 20-acre, the planning board didn't give the subdivision, is ridiculous. When it comes to the Council on Affordable Housing, if they decide to allow this, they can come in, they can subdivide that property. Normandy didn't have to go through this big dog and pony show. They can increase the density, they can increase the height. They do not have to follow our local zoning code. Everyone knows that. They are not held to our zoning codes.
I disagree, but go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
Have you not read about what has gone on in other towns when the builder's remedy has come in and they've built high-density housing where it was previously not allowed? This is all happening because the planning board turned down an absolutely beautiful application, and they were here for that application.
Yeah, so
It is absolutely ridiculous to try to tell this town that they went through that they lied under oath. So basically, you're saying that they lied under oath at all those planning board meetings because all they really wanted was the subdivision and to build affordable housing.
Time will tell.
Why would anyone do that when all they would have to do is say, you know what? We have this piece of property, let's go straight to joining the affordable housing litigation. They didn't have to go through that whole thing with the planning board to do this. And honestly, I'm really very frightened for the town. I don't think that you're taking this seriously enough. I mean, I really hope and pray for the sake of our town that you, as the mayor, reaches out to Normandy, get them back to the planning board. They have filed, which, by the way, we didn't hear until we were in court on Friday. Normandy has filed an appeal in the courts about the planning board's rejection of their application.
Well, I knew that.
So, yeah, you knew that, but the rest of us didn't hear it
See,
until
in
we
my
went
position
to
as mayor,
court.
I may have some more facts than you have, and I'm
Well,
not
I
a
have
fearmonger.
facts, too.
I'm not a fearmonger either.
Oh, you're calling me a fearmonger
I
again?
am, actually. You said you're frightened.
Stop.
I am frightened for the town. This is going, if this goes through, it will change. And it is incumbent upon you, as the mayor, to do everything in your power to bring Normandy back, acquiesce in court for their appeal, get them back to the planning board, and give them their original application for a stellar office building. That is what should be done.
Thank you for your comments.
And if you don't do that, then you don't have the best interests of the town at heart. This is very serious, and I'm just honestly very concerned that you're not taking it as seriously as you should be taking it. It's a very, very serious issue. And these people have the very best attorneys
Hold on a second.
on...
You know, for you to say that I'm not taking something seriously,
Yeah,
I
well,
have
she's had 5 minutes.
I have a fiduciary duty to this town, and you
You
don't.
do have
I
a
do. I
fiduciary
am
duty to
fulfilling
this
it.
town.
And
Well,
by the way, I
what
also
about-
have complete faith and confidence
Excuse me, this
in my
is back
planning
and
board,
forth.
okay? In my planning board. You've
Now,
done a great
the other
job.
thing that
My
we learned,
appointments to the
excuse
planning
me,
board.
but the other thing that we learned in court that day is that Englewood Cliffs was 2.5 months past the deadline for submitting their affordable housing plan. And the judge admonished Englewood Cliffs and said, what has Englewood Cliffs been doing for the last 2 years? And according to the court, nothing has been done in Englewood Cliffs to be proactive on affordable housing. And I have said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I think that the priorities of this council have been to harass the police department, harass the police chief, and not do the job that you're supposed to be. You're not doing the... This is my opinion, and I'm
Fine, she's entitled to her
it.
opinion, everyone. It's wrong, but she's entitled to it. Okay.
You may think it's wrong,
It's wrong.
but there has been, you can't deny that there's been a lot of energy expended on going after the police and the chief chaplain.
No.
And in the meantime, the affordable housing obligation fell through the cracks. A beautiful application was denied. You were given advance notice of that motion that was going to be filed. Did you do anything to prevent that motion for affordable housing to be filed? Did you direct an attorney to call an attorney?
I have no
See
idea
what's
you're
going
talking
on? Okay, I mean, you have a
Stop.
duty
You're
to protect
going over.
this town.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going all over.
I think you're finished, your 5 minutes is up.
I would be
respect what
very
you said, But
happy.
now it's becoming ridiculous.
Thank you for respecting what I said.
Thank you. Okay, you know, just, so everyone, yeah, okay, so, just a couple points. As mayor, and I said this last week, I have to balance the interests of different constituents, right? So we have our taxpayers and we have our police, okay? And there's an imbalance right now, okay? There's no reason why Englewood Cliffs should have the second highest paid police force in New Jersey. We don't have crime, okay? So I have to balance that interest. So, excuse me. You can leave if you have to talk, but I'm very pro-police, I'm pro-policing, I'm pro-law enforcement. The fact that I'm also trying to balance the budget doesn't make me anti-police, okay? So that's the balance. Pro-taxpayer, pro-police, there has to be a balance, okay? With respect to what the woman who was just standing here, and I forget her name, Ms. Fair, your husband was the former,
Planning board
chair, right. So here's the thing on that. The new judge received this case because the old judge had a conflict. He's getting up to speed, okay? And he's learning a lot about it, and he's going to learn more on Friday when our next round of papers get filed,
Okay, so the knowledge and facts that were in the head of the old judge are going to be transferred to the new judge, and I think then everything will be clear to the new judge as well. Okay, and I think Councilwoman McMorro is my liaison for COA, so I'm going to ask you to say a few words on this as well, since it came up.
I appreciate that, Mayor. You know, I'm glad that we have this many people here tonight. It saddens me to see certain individuals come out and spew, is the word I'm going to use, propaganda for their own personal interests. Nobody, and I will make the statement, nobody has worked harder than myself, the mayor, and the administrator on dealing with this issue that we're facing, okay? We're not sending out this stuff to the town to get you scared, to do what they're doing. You know why? Because we have a responsibility to the residents in this town to do what's right for all of you, not to play political games. This is propaganda. This is political. Now, if Ms. Fair has information from her husband, who is the former chair, who, by the way, was chairing the planning board in the year of 2016, which is overlapping into all of this, that's a separate issue, and that will all come out at the end. But I am going to read this statement. I was going to wait till later, Mayor. I'm going to read it now. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. It's a $120 million property assessment. That property comes out to $4.2 million an acre. And you're telling me that they decided in 1 year now to extend an 18-year lease agreement with the tenant, and then build a flagship corporation palace for an international headquarters, and then put in 600 units of market-level housing, and put a few affordable housing units in there. Guys, that doesn't happen overnight. That doesn't happen overnight because they got denied by the planning board. They're going to turn around and all of a sudden come up with this. It doesn't happen that way, okay? It does not happen that way. No, it doesn't. I have the floor. A project like that takes years of investigation and preliminary activities well before our administration took over, well before, and was in control. We only had the planning board control 2017. That's it. That's it. This didn't happen overnight, guys. Something smells very bad. I'm going to say this right now. Something, not me, it's not me, that's, you people are so rude. Really, okay?
All right, whoever said that, you may want to think about what you say next, okay? Because you're going down the rabbit hole now.
Something smells very bad with what is going on with this situation. And I'm telling you, I'm promising you, we're going to peel this onion back and peel it back and peel it back and get down to what the root of that smell is, okay? I am on the record right now. I want every email between former Mayor Parisi, Michael Cates, former planning board attorney, former Chairman Ed Fair, Steve Leiden, and Carter Karsten regarding affordable housing and this property in any context, including any conversations with Unilever. And Ellen, I want to thank you. I want to thank you. Because of your ruling from the judge now, we're entitled to all those emails. And I can't wait to get them.
Okay, Carol, now you're being...
No. Excuse me.
You can't do that.
Excuse me. You can get up. We are being accused of doing wrongdoing.
You don't think a big corporation has...
No, we don't, ma'am, you can't, ma'am, we have rules, you cannot do that.
They were under oath making statements.
You're finished?
I'm
Okay.
done.
Okay.
I am done.
Yes.
I am done, yes.
You're done.
Well,
It's uncalled
You-
for.
no, it's not uncalled for. We have a responsibility to find out.
I can't wait
All
for
right.
that onion to be peeled back.
Good.
Okay, all right,
I can't wait.
I'm sorry,
Good.
everybody, we need to keep...
You should be applauding us for wanting to find out what the truth is and not saying, oh, we don't want to know.
You can talk to them, you can let other people hear, Counselor.
I'm on the council.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Folks,
we have a speaker, a resident.
I think Fox and CNN are fighting at this point, or
Okay.
whatever.
Please, name and address.
Sophie Belcher, 42 Jane Drive.
Okay, thank you.
I was wondering if you could clarify, the situation. You said on Sylvan Avenue, you were thinking affordable housing for senior citizens? Is that, you said you were
In
having...
Hudson Terrace.
Hudson Terrace.
Right.
Could you clarify that? Because I'm a bit confused. If you're having the situation with the lawsuit and this is happening
It's a good question.
simultaneously?
Yes, it's a good question. And those are two separate issues. As I mentioned earlier, the borough, since 1983, has had a requirement to build low-income housing. This didn't just happen last year. It goes way back. And I may have the year wrong, but it was 83 or 84.
Correct.
So we are trying to address that issue and comply with the law. And there's different ways to comply. You could have senior housing, you could have different types of housing. So I thought, and I spoke to people on council about what's the best way to satisfy our obligation in light of the infrastructure that we have in our town. And senior housing was what I thought would be best and what they thought also. So we had our draw plans, and they're in discussion with the affordable housing special master about our plans. Okay, so that's completely separate from Normandy and Unilever's property.
So, like with this or this one?
Either one, doesn't
Is
matter.
this a strategy?
That's if you want to sing a song, and that's if you want to...
With my voice, yeah. Is this a strategy to combat the Normandy's lawsuit? Is this a way trying to, or is this in addition in case Normandy, God forbid we should lose that lawsuit, but would this be an addition?
No, this
Or
was
a replacement
It's
of?
completely separate. I am proceeding as Normandy will lose.
Well, just in case Normandy does not lose, are you still going to proceed with this plan? Because at that point, do we still need extra units to
Yeah, this is
fulfill our
really litigation.
obligation, or are we done with our obligation?
Yeah,
as far as the state
Yeah,
is
so the stuff-
concerned?
So, ma'am, respectfully, you're asking me for litigation strategy,
Yeah.
and because we're in litigation right now, I can't speak publicly about it, because...
Not that far.
Because not just our town is listening to our tape, Normandy is, they're looking at you right now, or they will be.
I would think
Yeah.
if that's what you're saying publicly, if
Yeah.
not thinking about it, they would think
No.
about it as well.
I just can't tell them what I'm thinking right now.
Okay.
But we did have that plan going on, and, yeah, it's been
They're
going
going
on.
on.
No.
Then, can I just make a comment? I'm a resident for 35 years. I hardly ever show up. And I have to say, I have friends on both sides of the aisle. You're all good people. I'm just fed up with the fight. We hear it on TV, nationally. We don't need it. This is a small town. We're not bad people. You're all good people. Everybody wants to, but I wish people would just get along. Maybe I'm naive, maybe
I'm going to applaud.
but most of us, you know what?
The name calling, though, did you hear the name calling? It's not right.
At this point, with the Normandy situation, I think we all have to be on the same team.
That's right.
And I'm sorry, I have no disrespect. You don't know me, and I don't know you. I am not a political person, nor do I want to be. I'm glad I'm not sitting there. But to drag the last administration or this or that, it's a childish game that needs to stop. I'm living here for 35 years. This is a great town. What's happening right now with Normandy, I think it's a disaster. I'm sure we all agree, whether we're sitting up there or
What's your
down
first
here.
name?
It's just
What's your first name? Your first
Sophie.
name?
Yeah, we do all of that.
I just think it would just be so much better if we can all stop blaming right now. We are in this deep water for whatever reason it is, whether it was a mistake done by the town or whatever that everybody's claiming. I know as a resident here, I don't want to hear it. I'm fed up with it. It's exhausting. It's just not a smart move at this point on either side. It's just exhausting to sit there and listen to everybody bickering. It really is.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, but can I say something? It's happening on both sides, and enough is enough.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I'm a resident 35 years here. I don't know how many more. worked here more than 30 years. Can you really? Thank you.
All the regulars.
Please,
Yeah.
please, let's be friends.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Linda Baruch, 132 Hollywood Avenue. I would like to know why we were 2.5 months late in making that application.
Do you want to answer that, Henry?
That's not exactly an accurate characterization.
You had a deadline, you missed it by 2.5 months.
No, that's not accurate. We will defend the position in court.
It is accurate because you were cited for it in court. So I would like to know why this administration can't file whenever they're supposed to file in a timely manner.
Again, the judge that we have now doesn't have all the facts in front of him, and he will by Friday, from the former judge who was conflicted out. And you'll understand that we did not miss that deadline.
Well, I know you're not supposed to.
No, we didn't, because the special master that's in charge of... Oh, all right, well, I can't, it's litigation.
All right,
All right.
I also am fed up with the whole fighting, and I've got enough of it on television and nationally. And I've lived here for 45 years. We've had a peaceful town with very few lawsuits over that period of time, and now we're inundated with lawsuits. And those lawsuits are costing us emotionally, and they're costing us financially. And it's mind-bending to see this many lawsuits going on when they never happened before. And I want to know, in the best interest of this town, why you wouldn't reach out to the utmost possible to get... I don't know that Normandy's interested in...
Who says I didn't reach out? Don't believe everything that shows up in your mailbox, ma'am, because a lot of that is not truthful.
I'm asking, would you reach out more to Normandy?
Of course we
To
would.
save us.
We had a meeting. We had a meeting after they filed. You know what's interesting is, they filed a over 100-page lawsuit less than 10 days after their permit was denied by our planning board. Okay? People just don't do that in 10 days.
Oh, sure. Good
No.
lawyers, come on.
No.
Yeah.
I could, well, all right.
If you've got a good legal team...
No.
it doesn't-
Yeah, if you have a good legal team that's been working on it for 12 months, or 9 months, or 6 months, but not 10 days, okay?
Look, I just want this...
And there's more to it
This
than that.
town can't absorb that.
And, you know,
We don't have the infrastructure.
Let me also mention that, I know you're tired of all the litigations, but, you know, I became mayor, and then I've gotten sued over 12 times because I'm trying to do my job. The people who I beat are trying to run your town, with your taxpayer dollars, through the courts, okay? So that's what's happening, and I'm going to continue doing my job. But, you know, if people want to go to court and have the judges run our town, that's their prerogative, and we'll beat them there. But I can't just sit here and
You don't know
say...
that. You don't win every case. Nobody knows the outcome until it's happened.
Well, look what
You
they're
can't
suing
say
over.
now.
Look what they're suing over.
They're suing over some very serious things.
Okay, we're not going to debate. Look,
But,
I feel badly that it's keeping you up at night, okay?
yeah, it's not just me, it's all of us. None of us
Not
want to
me,
see
though,
the
right?
character of the town
Yeah.
changed. It's been a great
Well,
town.
why don't you turn around and tell the people that are suing to stop suing? Because I think all these lawsuits are ridiculous.
That's your opinion, but we are trying to, some people are trying to, who don't have to agree with you, have a right to sue, but there are other people suing. It's not just us suing.
We
This
have,
town
ma'am,
has
we
sued.
have one police officer suing another one because that one made him cry. This is what's going on in your town.
That is a simplest...
I will show it to you. No, I will show it to you. It's in a public document. This is the nonsense that we have to deal with. Anybody else? Yes? Sorry.
abuse. It's abuse.
Karen Geiger, 270 Alfred Street, Englewood Cliffs, obviously. Mayor Kranjak, you talk about working together, yet your demeanor and your public statements show something quite to the contrary. You don't tolerate any differences of opinion that are different from yours. The public is often rudely dismissed and demeaned, especially when we disagree with you. The members of the public, all of whom are residents of Englewood Cliffs, the people who elected you to serve us, who disagree with you, are called enemies of democracy. I assure you, they're not. When you got up on January 1st, and you said, "When I am attacked, our residents are attacked," I believe that's a direct quote, you show how little you understand your role. You're not an anointed king. You're not living in a monarchy. We are living in a democracy, and very fundamental to our government is the process of questioning the decisions and the comments made by our elected officials. That is what we are supposed to be doing when we engage in government and when we become active residents and citizens. Until now, your primary focus has been criticizing our police department. I don't want to minimize the problems that this criticism has caused, both in taxpayer expense and in damage to our borough's reputation. Your comments about the police department ignore the fact that the public safety and security, our security in Englewood Cliffs, a small community living right next to New York City, is the most important consideration that we have as borough residents. You speak even today about excessive state pension costs, but your own action, your voluntary action on this board, have contributed to the statewide burden because you awarded a needless, retroactive promotion to a policeman in order to increase his pension for life. The pension costs that we will pay for and that you now make fun of. You talk about overtime and the alleged failure to control it, but you ignore the very simple solution: hire more police. If you fill the existing vacancies, I'm not talking about creating new positions. There are existing vacancies on our department that have been empty for over a year, possibly two. You talk about frivolous lawsuits, but apparently the courts think otherwise. The courts not only ruled in favor of Councilwoman Park on all counts, but they also told the borough to pay her costs. How pathetic is that we had to pay for the costs of what Councilwoman Park should have received from day one. And in the case of Patrolman Ust, another lawsuit that you said was frivolous and was dismissed, that really isn't the case, is it? Because when you look at the opinion of the appellate judge who recently reinstated the case, she said that never has she seen a case that more accurately reflects harassment of a police officer, and this should go to trial. But my focus this evening...
She didn't say that, by the way.
That's my paraphrasing.
You can make up whatever you want.
I'm paraphrasing what she said. That was her intent.
I know you need content.
And the case is back, isn't it? And it's on the court rosters. So you could laugh all you want, but we have another case before us. You do, rather. But my focus this evening is 800 Sylvan. As residents, we seek and expect leadership from our mayor and council. In my view, we have yet to see it. I attended the hearing held by Judge Toscos on Friday, and I learned at that hearing that Normandy Real Estate Partners filed an appeal on December 20th to overturn the planning board's denial of their property. When you gave your speech on January 1, didn't you think it might be a good idea to tell us that? That's sort of important to this community. We are concerned about what is happening with 800 Sylvan Avenue.
You're-
And when you talk,
You're at about 7 minutes now, but go ahead. Just try
Thank
to
you.
wrap it up.
well, if not, I'll have somebody else read the rest of
No,
mine.
we don't yield.
We
don't
do
have
yield.
time. No, we
The
don't.
It's up to the council to make
No,
that
we don't yield
decision,
time.
not you.
The rules we adopted don't yield.
You don't have, you have suspended rules frequently,
No.
and I'm not you're counting time when you're arguing with me.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, you gave your speech on January 1st, and you didn't think that was important. Why? Because it runs contrary to the spin that you are putting on the application. Normandy was rejected by the planning board on October 12th, not November 8th. That was the formal resolution that codified it. Lawyers can whip together 100-page documents overnight, especially in a large law firm. That doesn't take a lot of time. I've seen it done. Many of us who have dealt with the courts have. I'm sure you have. But we're not talking about the date of November 8th. We're talking about October 12th. And they sent you a letter on November 17th saying that they intended to do this. And still, we heard nothing. And why did we also learn from Judge Toscos, and he did say you were 2.5 months late, and he wondered why the borough was so deficient in meeting its COA obligation. COA is a very interesting, it's not COA anymore, it's the Mount Laurel decisions that govern us. And they have a lot of rights. They can overturn all zoning. I hope you appreciate that. I certainly do as a resident. It was something we took in mind when we challenged the LG egregious height. We were concerned about the possibility of COA, and I find it reprehensible that any member of this planning board did not take that into the consideration when they denied a good building that would have occupied the site. And I take great offense at your calling Normandy nothing short of testifying under oath fraudulently when you say they had other plans. People don't do that. People in business, time is money. And their money and their time was invested in over 5 months, 4 months of hearings and plannings and documents.
Time will tell.
We as residents will continue to ask questions about your leadership on this issue. But what we want most of all, and I think I speak for most, is that you negotiate with Normandy so that they can build what they wanted to build in the first place in our community. We want this property to be commercial. We do not want COA. The judge talked about a possibility of an overlay zone setting up so that the current inhabitant of the property, the owner, could build a commercial site on it or anything else if it was approved. I'm asking that you work with them to approve that for our community. We cannot afford, it's not the affordable housing component, it's 600 residents. And if it's 500 or 400 or 300, we still cannot afford that in our community. Please, I'm urging you, and this is not partisan. Excuse me. Carol, this is my time. Work with them, continue to work with them. Continue to work with them.
You're repeating yourself now, and you're over 10 minutes, and I want to know if there's anyone else from the audience who wishes to speak. Yes, you have the floor. She's being redundant at this point.
No.
She's very informative, more than you.
No, she's being very...
It's okay. It's okay.
Listen,
I invite anyone in the audience to please come on the 19th to the next court hearing and hear for yourselves what transpires. And I really don't want to hear judges demeaned and other members of the court demeaned. They're here to balance what happens on a council. Thank you.
No one's demeaning anyone. Okay. Yes, please.
Lauren Eastwood, 4 Willow Drive.
I'm sorry, can everybody just be silent? Thank you.
I've been coming to council meetings for quite a while now. And all the people who are now complaining that they get interrupted occasionally from the dais never had a word to say when the former Mayor Parisi constantly interrupted people. And Councilman Aversa had that stupid duck, and you got quacked at 3 minutes, even when Mayor Parisi had taken 2/3 of your 3 minutes.
You had a duck egg?
I still think we should limit, but that's up to you guys.
Do you have your duck with you today?
Probably not yet. I don't find, I think it's offensive to call any duck stupid. Meetings like that.
Yeah, yes, we're all about animal rights. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
I also am very curious about why everyone seems to think that if Normandy is given the subdivision they want, and given the erasure of the deed restriction currently on the property that they want, that they're going to build commercial. That there's a market for that commercial.
Land's open.
The Mercedes-Benz property in Montvale ended up as residential, or is ending up as residential, despite litigation to try and keep it commercial. The Pearson property in Upper Saddle River is also being converted to residential, even though I can't imagine why anyone would want to live on Route 17. I know the property very well. It is on Route 17.
Mr. Di Gregorio, I'm going to have to caution you. If somebody else has the floor right now. Thank you.
Very much.
We've seen the One Executive Plaza in Fort Lee, which was an office building converted to residential. We're seeing Quasha Lipton, which has been vacant for years in Fort Lee. Apparently that's now being converted to residential. I firmly believe that 800 Sylvan should remain commercial. It's an office building, they bought it as an office building, and it should be kept an office building. However, I am unwilling to assume that if they are given the subdivision they want, the removal of the deed restriction that they want, and the variances they want, that they're going to build an office building unless they have a tenant for it. If they get the subdivision, and they get the variances, and they get the deed restriction, they can then use those to do whatever they want, and go in looking for residential. That's reality. You know, if the, Karen Geiger and her group know something the rest of us don't know, and have guarantees that none of us have heard of, that if they get their variances, they'll keep it an office building, that's wonderful. But I think everyone is foolish if they're not concerned about them getting the variances, getting removal of the deed restriction, and then turning around the next day and coming in with a plan for residential. I think that's a very real risk.
Ms. Claire, if you like, you could exit. No, you don't. Okay, settle down, everyone.
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Good evening.
I'm Russell Perino, 220 Fairview Avenue. I'm here speaking as a member of the public. Hello? Testing? Okay. I have reviewed the certifications and the legal briefs back and forth that have been filed recently by both the Normandy folks and by attorney for the borough. And I suggest that members of the public who wish to be informed about what is going on, that they read it as well. Because within those certifications, there's information that paints a pretty clear picture for a layperson. For those that understand the municipal land use law and the process, it's quite obvious. Ms. Eastwood touched on some points that I really can't speak to, but there's more to this than a simple commercial application. I don't think I'm going to ask a council a question, and probably she's going to say she can't answer it. The question is, if, for instance, the board had decided to approve that application and grant the subdivision as requested and waive the deed restriction on almost the entire front of that property, would Normandy's position in the COA litigation be improved, not improved, doesn't matter? Can you answer that? Are you comfortable answering that question?
Well, I can give you my opinion that if someone has a subdivision they can do virtually whatever they want after the subdivision is perfected. That doesn't mean they wouldn't have to come back for approval. That doesn't mean they wouldn't have had to still do a motion in the COA. But it would make it easier to gather court approval over a 600-unit property if the subdivision that they wanted would have occurred. So it's my opinion. I mean, we will see. It's part of the litigation. And I think I can't speak about the deed restriction because I don't know anything about that. I do know, however, having been involved in other litigation, that deed restrictions are not easily removed, whether we would consent or not. Because if it's a deed restriction for the public, the case law says the municipal entity can't be the one that makes that decision when there's a public interest in that deed restriction. So there's case law about that that's really strong. I don't know what this deed restriction is, but...
And I can...
So I can only give you a limited response.
And that's fine. That's fine. That was what I was asking for. And, I came home, this evening, and my wife pushed a piece of paper in front of me and said, "Why is your name on this flyer? You're being painted as a villain here." And those that authored that and then support that need to really look at themselves in the mirror. Okay? And you think that what the planning board did was wrong, you're entitled to your opinion. You should at least reserve judgment until you have all the facts. And trust me, you do not have the facts yet.
Thank you, Mr. Perino. I also want to thank you for leading the planning board.
And I will say that decision that we made was a tough one. It was a split vote. I am much more certain today than I was then that it was the right decision to make for the borough. That's where I sit tonight, as one member of that board. And I'm proud of all of them to stand up and to do what they thought was right. And not just I'll leave it at that. I think it's best I leave it at that.
So I appreciate you doing that. And for those who need to look in a mirror, there's mirrors in the ladies' room and the men's room. Yes. Mr. Di Gregorio, there's no calling out.
Keep it out first.
Hi, good evening. Lynn Norton, 9 Willow Drive, Englewood Cliffs. Just wanted to start with the first thing. It's time to let the Parisi administration go. Anybody who hasn't been here, who has lived here less than 40 years, moved here voluntarily because they liked the town. The town was run by Mayor Joe Parisi Sr. It was run by Mayor Joe Parisi Jr. And I would say that at the time, the newspaper in Seoul, South Korea, listed Englewood Cliffs as one of the top places to live in America. So guys, it's time to let go of it. I mean, we have a lot of people moving here because of that. Second of all, it's time to give up the vendetta with the police department. Enough is enough. You started on day one. So therefore, when you go after them, there's no credibility. They have contracts. You have to live by that. When you have overtime, if you've read it, if you understand how the police department works, there are things they have to do. There are contracts, there are past practices, there are rules, there are regulations, there are procedures. There's a reason they get accredited. And it's not because they don't have these things. So it's time to sit down at the table and time to talk. Not time to bring up arbitrary and capricious charges, not time to sue them. Well, the suits are ridiculous. You know, you can't come out of industry, walk into government, and think you know exactly what you need to do. It's different. There's collective bargaining. There are people you have to deal with. There are different rules. There's Oprah. There are all sorts of things, and it's time that we set back and either learn them. Otherwise, there's going to be more and more things going to the courts. On another note, thank you for, first of all, taking down the signs on Johnson Field, the advertising signs. I think it was very good to see them go. The field looks a lot better with snow than it did with advertising signs. As far as the cable connection, Time Warner Cable, which became Spectrum, it is still going in and out on the north side, so I appreciate you reaching out to them and would appreciate you continuing to, since they do have a monopoly in town. I think it behooves them and it behooves us to make sure we have the best connection possible. On another note, which is the taxes, as we know, our local taxes, our real estate taxes, are not going to go down much below that $10,000 mark, no matter what you guys do with the budget. Our average house is assessed at 1.2, and our rate is probably a penny, whatever. You know, well, we're there. We're at 10,000, or we're at more than 10,000 for our average assessed house. So if you top that, if you add to that all the people who work, you also have your state taxes that they're getting hit with. And I would ask the mayor and council to look into the concept that Paramus and Fair Lawn and a few of the other towns are looking at in setting up a charitable foundation, or at least looking at ways to make it a little bit easier for the people of Englewood Cliffs. It's an offset to the taxes. It works the same way. I do think that the state, the governor's office, and the New York governors will probably be looking for a way to try to offset it. I mean, it definitely, this policy puts an undue burden on the residents of New York, New Jersey, and some other high-tax states. And there's nothing New Jersey really can do to change it at this point. But I do ask, Mayor, that you look at ways to allow this tax to be deductible for the residents so that we don't get hit unnecessarily. Thank you.
So, with respect to the PBA, I do actually have a meeting scheduled with them later this month. Their contract is up this year, and I will be sitting down with them and our Labor Council to discuss going forward. Ms. Norton raised an interesting issue. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of what's been contemplated by our governor-elect and our congressman. At least two of them, ours and the neighboring congressional district, have proposed that rather than have residents pay real estate taxes, that a charitable trust be set up by individual boroughs and cities and towns so that people could get the full tax deduction for their charitable deduction, because that has not been limited by federal law. The last time I woke up, I was an American, and we had federal government and we had state government. We have state taxes and we have federal income taxes. Charitable deductions on your federal income tax can only be taken if you derive no benefit. So if you're paying that in lieu of your real estate taxes, you are deriving a benefit, okay? And it should not be deductible. So I'm not going to be a party to tax evasion, as some other boroughs are contemplating. And the second thing is also, what happens if people decide, hey, you know what, I'm just not going to make that charitable deduction this year? What happens then? We don't get the money as a borough? No, folks. Charitable deductions are for your churches, your temples, your synagogues, your mosques, okay, and other charities. Your taxes are for the borough to operate. All right, that's my position. So just so you leave here knowing what my position is, I thought I'd make it clear. So the public portion, I hope, is coming to an end. Somebody else has a hand up? Yes.
Pat Rosen, 60 Karen's Lane. I don't pretend to know any of the details of the situation with the property at 800 Sylvan Avenue, but ever since the newspaper articles have come out, I will tell you that everybody is talking about it here in town. And everybody wants that property to remain commercial. So I would
Agreed.
just ask you, Mayor, to do whatever you can to compromise and make sure that that is what happens.
Okay. We'll do our best.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public portion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 resolutions to deal with tonight. Resolution 18-34. I'm going to let the municipal clerk read that in. Folks, we're still doing business up here, so I just ask you to remain quiet. Okay, can you read that in?
Yeah.
Are you okay? No? That's never happened.
Resolution 1838, tonnage grant application. Oh, 34, I'm sorry. I need a motion.
So moved.
Councilpersons Aversa?
Yes.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Woo.
Yes.
1835, tax reimbursement certificate. I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Councilpersons Aversa?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Woo.
Yes.
18-36, authorize mayor to sign Governor's Municipal Drug Alliance grant. I need a motion.
Second.
Councilpersons Aversa?
Yes.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Woo.
Yes.
Everything passes, Mayor. And for those that weren't present during caucus, 1837 was an administrative poll by the mayor.
Yes.
Removal.
although we call- Yes, administrative removal. A poll is easier.
You like that word, administrative removal.
That's right.
Don't get used to it.
Next up on the, we don't do that often here. So, the next one up is the committee reports. For people who are new to our meetings, each council person has a committee that they're a liaison to, and, they report back to us at these public meetings about what's happening in their respective committees. So I'm going to start with Councilman Aversa. Please just state your, committees.
Lighting Committee and Historical, nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay, and the lights are all on.
Lights are all on.
Okay.
Yes, all on.
Okay, thanks. Councilwoman Park.
I'm the liaison to Board of Health. We have not had our meeting yet for January. We're going to have it next week. Well, actually, I think the 22nd, so nothing to report as of yet.
Bless you. Councilwoman,
Transportation, nothing to report.
Councilwoman McMorro.
Thank you, Mayor. I've waited until this point, Mayor. Can I, since we're closed, respond? Make a statement?
As to what?
Is this your committee report? Well, I don't have a committee report, but I'd like to be able to make a statement. I waited until...
Regarding what, then?
Regarding,
COA,
from
or-
the... Not COA. I'll do that at the end.
Let's wait that for a new business.
Okay, I just want, before people start leaving, to be able to respond.
All right, now that you said that, they're going to leave, so go ahead.
As a council, excuse me.
No?
I can say whatever I want.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Couple of things. I agree with, Sophie in what she said, and I appreciate everybody that comes up here and speaks at the dais. I mean, not the dais, at the table over there. And, sometimes it's hard for us sitting up here until we hear you, speaking again but what I need members of the public to understand. We are trying to do a good job. I'll speak for myself. I'm trying to do a very good job up here, and it's very hard with the continual attacks and the letters going out to the town saying that we're not. This COA thing for me this is the most serious issue that I believe this town has ever faced. And I personally am working tirelessly with the mayor and the administrator to get our attorneys everything they need so that we can win. We need to win. And my statement at the December meeting, you weren't at that meeting, was this is a time for us to all unify and come together as one group. I don't care what side you're on, who you are, who you like, who you don't like. Unity is your strength, and that's the best way that you're going to win this fight. And it doesn't help anyone when you're sending out repetitive mailers, calling names, calling Mr. Perino a villain. This is horrible. He's somebody's husband, he's somebody's father, I'm somebody's mother, I'm somebody's wife. We're all people. We want to do a great job for you. And even if you don't agree with us, this is not the time to be name-calling and accusing us of doing all these wrong jobs. And that was why I brought up other situations. And I hear you when you say that, but I just want you to understand, I know it's your first meeting, a lot of other, being called names and being accused of you're not doing your job is a very difficult thing. That's first. Number two, lawsuits. I don't know, Mayor, we're tied, you and I, of how many lawsuits we both have. I cannot tell you the amount of hours and days that I have to dedicate to the lawsuits that we are being sued with, and frivolous lawsuits.
Was my lawsuit frivolous?
Excuse me. I'm really going to just ask for you not to...
So I will speak after you're done, Carol.
You are more than welcome to, okay?
You're out of turn.
If you listen to what I said, it's what I am dealing with, okay? And thank you, Councilwoman Park. You did receive a safe harbor letter from my lawyer. You voluntarily dismissed me with prejudice. Dismissed me with prejudice, but nobody's bringing that up, that I was dismissed from that lawsuit. I gave you everything you wanted, you still sued me.
You didn't give me anything.
Okay. You voluntarily dismissed it with the court. There are other lawsuits. And I want to quote, I never thought that I would quote Karen Geiger, but I'm going to quote her. And she said, in reference to Ellen Park, this is something she should have received from day one. Now, saying that, there have been a lot of comments about my filing of a lawsuit. And there are continual jabs and statements, Ms. Sabari, about this being all about money. And at every meeting, I have stated to you, Money Train, Money Hungry McMorrow, okay, excuse me, many people, I'm speaking, please. Okay, I am trying to. But no one, I don't care who you are, should be harassed. No one should be followed. No one should have their house watched, their comings and goings watched. No one, whoever you are, that should not happen. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, a senior, a child, whoever, nobody, that shouldn't happen to you. So there are a lot of other things going on, and if anyone cares to know about my lawsuit, they can read my lawsuit. It's online, okay? Well, excuse me. I'm speaking in generality and saying no one should be followed without, if they didn't break a law, and nobody's house should be watched, okay? That's all I have to say about the matter.
Point of order.
Councilman, we're doing committee reports. Hold on a second, Councilman Park.
Oh, yes, planning board.
Yeah, we digress.
Okay, let's finish about this one first. Okay, planning board. Let's meet the extension of the regulation approved for 25th Street, and then another location 15 Priscilla Lane, generate site plan approved. And then, planning board adopted the year 2000 annual report. 25th Street, they cannot build up on time, so they applied about that extension regulation, so we approved it last month. That they cannot build in on time, so that's the problem. Okay. Also planning board adopted the 2017 annual report for mayor and council, and the 2018 meeting schedule we approved. In the public session, as of tonight, we discussed about a lot of issues about 800 Sylvan Avenue. I think we are all same boat. We have to cooperate, to fight this one regardless of our party. That's my hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Wu?
Mayor, you mentioned a couple of the items earlier. Department of Public Works, thank you, Mark Neville and team. You guys did an amazing job Thursday and Friday cleaning up our streets. Drove around, is a very good job. Relative to public safety, we do have resumes in for the public safety director position. We'll be looking into that in the following month. As it pertains to 800 Sylvan, I've lived in this town for 31 years. That is the number one issue I've ever heard about in this town. And it's hard to hear from Russ Perino speaking as a resident here, the type of attacks he has to go through in serving on the planning board. And I trust Russ that he's making extremely responsible decisions on behalf of the residents. And I can assure you, I know David DiGregorio, you mentioned earlier that we should be thinking independently. We always think independently. And this issue, we're going to get to the bottom of it. All right, thank you.
So the one thing that you heard about tonight was Ellen Park had sued the borough and me regarding, what she had done is she asked for all my emails for a certain time period from January 1st to like June of last year.
You're always deflecting every time.
So what?
You do this every time I want to speak.
Let me finish. You had your chance.
No, I didn't have a chance. We were talking about committee reports,
and
now you let Carol speak for 20 minutes, and now it goes around.
Well, you'll get to speak after me. That's fine. I have the floor, okay? Thank you. Svetlana from NorthJersey.com is here, and she printed part of my quote last night, and not all of it, so while I appreciate her doing that, I think her editors have a delete button for some specific Republicans in the county, so I'll just tell you exactly what I wrote to her. I said, I'm very glad that, as the judge noted, the scope of Ms. Park's request for documents was refined and limited at oral argument. As an affront to our residents, Ellen was demanding every email I wrote without reference to subject matter. Perhaps now, Ms. Park can cease expending borough funds on a political witch hunt and focus on performing her duties as a council member. For example, when she was complaining about her access to my emails, she failed to respond to emails from me concerning important borough matters. So at the end of last year, actually on December 26th, I wrote an email to Ellen saying, Ellen, please let me know if you have any comments regarding the appointment list. This is a list of appointments that I make, the council makes at the beginning of every year. She wrote back 3 days later, hi, I've been out of town, but returning today. I may have some questions, but I do not have the appointment list yet.
Deflecting again.
Did you send an appointment list to Lizette? And I wrote back to her immediately saying, Rosemary Weber circulated the materials to council members. And then later on that day, she said, got it, we'll take a look and let you know. Happy New Year to you and your family. So, we do reach out, but I can't force people to tell me what's on their mind. Ellen had an opportunity to weigh in on a subject matter here, but she didn't. So she did what she does, what a lot of people in town do, is they go to court and sue. And then the judge says, okay, well, you could have it, and they limit it. So go ahead. Now, you could say what you want.
All right. Second of all, you asked me if I had any questions, yet you didn't tell me who you were going to appoint. Instead, you refer to all the RFQs that was sent 2 weeks ago, and you want me to have questions for you? The same thing you do at the agenda every month is you get us the agenda the day of, and then you say, do you have any questions, right? So this is how this whole lawsuit started. First of all, had you given me the emails in May when I asked for it, there would be no lawsuit.
You didn't know what you wanted.
What are you talking about? You think I want to know where you eat
You
with
wanted
Carol?
everything.
I
You
wanted
everything.
I'm
All
sorry,
everything
the
together.
decision actually specifically says that it's pretty common sense when I ask you for emails between the borough attorney, Carol McMorrow, and you. I'm talking borough business. I don't care where you guys eat together, hang out together. That's pretty much common sense, okay? And it's a 24-page decision that I could actually post online for everybody to read if there's any confusion as to what subject matter I was asking for, okay?
What I do appreciate is that you limited it, an oral argument.
What are you
and
talking about?
responsive.
Okay, second, you know what, I will post it online, you guys can take a look. All right, second, this is what I want to say about my lawsuit, okay? Instead of you taking accountability and saying, you know what, I should have just given you the emails back in May, right? There would be no lawsuit, and then there wouldn't even be a decision. Had you given it to me during the lawsuit, I would have dropped the lawsuit, and there would be no cost to the town. Instead, to the end, you talk about me spending taxpayers' dollars, when in fact it was you who would not give me the emails, number one. Number two, again, Carol, it's all about deflecting on that side. Instead of taking accountability, saying, you know what, I could have done this better, or maybe we could have done it differently. Instead, it's always the former Mayor Parisi's fault. It's the former administration's fault. It's never their fault, right? And even
I gave you everything.
You didn't give me anything.
I gave you everything.
Let her finish. Let her
Right?
finish. She's on a tear.
I didn't get any emails from you, Carol, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I gave you
Okay, so you're all elected officials, and the
Okay.
public is watching you right now saying,
All right.
we voted these people in.
Secondly, we're talking about numerous lawsuits. Instead of saying, why are there numerous lawsuits? What are we maybe doing wrong? You blame everybody else for suing you. So how about that? Deflecting again, not taking any accountability. 800 Sylvan, I don't know that we made a good choice or a bad choice as of yet. It's too soon. But if it goes down the wrong way, you have to be accountable, Mayor. You have to say, you know what? Maybe we did it the wrong way, rather than, oh, you know what? Everybody else, the other towns have COA or whatever it is. Trying to dig up prior administration's email between the planning board. This is all deflecting.
We're in litigation, Ellen. We're in litigation. We need
One
it
has
for
nothing to
discovery.
do with the other.
It has a lot to do. We can't disclose that right now.
Well, you know what?
You have no clue what you're talking about.
I have no clue what I'm talking about, and yet, why? Because you do not share any information with me or anybody on this side.
Calm down, stop
The
yelling.
attorney for COA has not come yet. I'm not a lawyer.
No, let her finish.
I will, but
Let her finish.
It's so frustrating to try to work with people that I'm really trying to work. I gave a comment to newspaper saying, you know what, I hope from now on there would be transparency. I didn't say anything negative about you, Mayor. I didn't say anything other than, you know what, moving forward, let's try to be more transparent and work together. And yet you still attack us individually. You attack the residents individually. And you know what? From now on, you should really, I would hate to, school you at this point, but...
For
right?
the record, you're the only one yelling here.
Really? Well, I'm upset. I'm really upset with you, okay? It's not so much what you say, it's how you say them, okay? And so maybe if you were a little bit more respectful, then people respect you in return.
So you get all the agendas, Okay. So, just for everyone's information, what happens before these meetings is, on the Friday before we post the agenda, we try to post it on that Friday in terms of a draft agenda so people can look at it. And it goes through some iterations up through the beginning of the meeting. So Ellen, as everyone else here, has the opportunity to take out their iPad, their iPhone, whatever, and see the agenda. And if they have comments, additions, deletions, they could just give those to me, and I'll address them. Ellen's been on the council for over a year now. I've never gotten a request for an addition, a deletion, or a comment, but I did get a lawsuit, okay? Because that's what they do, all right? So let's stop that, guys. All right, let's move on through the agenda. And so, in old business, we were discussing over the last couple of months the repeal of the Jerry Frank ordinance. This is an ordinance where if a borough employee falls ill and needs to take some time off, the borough will pay them 180 days salary. And it's a very difficult ordinance to budget around because you don't know what issues, health issues an employee is going to have. So it also has been somewhat misused in the past because people are supposed to burn down their vacation and accrued sick time before they invoke it, and that hasn't always been the case. So I wanted to repeal it, but we're holding off doing that until we find a suitable substitute for it, because we want to try to find a disability insurance policy that could bridge that gap for an employee, and then at least from a budgeting point of view, we'll know what our premium is and we can budget for it, and it makes a lot more sense. So Catherine Steinel, our borough administrator, is discussing that with our insurance people, and I hope we'll have something for you next month on that. For new business, I've asked Carol, Councilwoman Carol McMorrow, to be my COA liaison and deal with some of the COA issues that you've heard tonight about Normandy and 800 Sylvan. We're talking about having a mayor and council for the day from the upper school student council. We're coordinating that hopefully next month or the month after. March 14th? Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to have students. We're all going to be on our very, very, very best behavior that night, because we're going to have students running the meeting, at least the caucus meeting, okay? Because we don't want them to have to be here till 10 o'clock at night. There's still a meeting going on back there, Mr. DiGregorio, and you're not part of it up here. So, and also for the Recreation Advisory Board, I wanted to appoint Billy Theodorakis.
Good.
I said that pretty well, right, Penny? Sorry.
Theodorakis.
So we're going to appoint Billy to be an alternate member on the Recreation Advisory Board, which has become a very active board and a very important board because they are providing a lot of events and good things for our children in town. I don't have anything else. Did anybody else have anything?
I just have
Yes.
an update on the, ad hoc committee.
Advisory board, we should vote.
I'm sorry, we have to vote for
We need
Billy.
to vote.
Oh, to have a motion to accept Billy,
So moved.
Okay, Aversa, O. Councilpersons Aversa?
Yes.
E. Park?
Yes.
O.
Yes.
McMorro?
Yes.
M. Park?
Yes.
Vote.
Yes.
Just as a reminder, you'll have to swear them in for the next meeting. I took your place last week. You're welcome. It felt great being mayor. I didn't get sued.
so,
Not yet.
you were...
Watch it.
So we all voted on something unanimously, so it's we're building momentum, folks. Anything else?
I just have to give an update on the ad hoc.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, we, at the January meeting, we had an ad hoc committee that was formed. It's Councilman Wu, myself, and Councilwoman Park. I wanted to say that I thought we had a great meeting. I thought it was very productive. Right? You would agree? Thank you. I thought we had some good ideas. We all had different things that we're going to be looking into and meet again. And for those of you that are new in the audience, the mayor created an ad hoc committee for improvements to Whitty Field. As you all know, that failed last year, and the reason for this bipartisan ad hoc committee is to see how can we solve this, because for the residents of the town, we need to solve it, and we need to do it in a cost-effective way, and we need to find a compromise that's going to work. Okay, so we had a great meeting, and like I said, I look forward to the next one, and I will update you guys as soon as I have more information.
I echo that. That was a good bipartisan meeting. I think we did talk about a compromise, so hopefully we can move that forward. I just had one more thing. I just want to announce something which means a lot to me. February 8th, there's going to be a Lunar New Year celebration at the school, upper school, in the evening. I apologize, I don't have the final time. It's probably going to be 6 or 7 p.m. Lion dance, traditional Chinese dance will also be there as well. So, for you guys that can attend, I encourage you to go.
Thank you, that sounds like fun. Anybody else? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.